Always great catching up with Devin Clark, who's going to be back in action against Un Jung, UFC Fight Night, February 4th. Devin, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing awesome. When did you find out about this fight? I know initially it was supposed to be in Korea. Now it's going to be in Vegas.
So I think we've had three and a half months to prepare for the fight. We just found out last week, I believe, that it's in Vegas instead of South Korea. So it's a big move, but I was excited to go to South Korea, but at the same time, it's so much easier to just go to Vegas and fight. So it works out.
Yeah, no, I was going to say you must be thrilled about that, and probably easier too to get corners out and all that stuff in terms of going to the fight, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it's cheaper too, so that's always good.
Yeah. Did they give you a reason? I mean, I think most assumed because I think they figured the Korean Zombie was going to headline, and I don't think he was ready to fight. Did they give you a reason, or they just said, "Hey, we're moving it"?
They didn't give me a reason. No. I heard though it had a lot to do with that main event matchup, and a bunch of other stuff went wrong, and I think they just said, "Screw it, let's do it in Vegas." It'd be easier to get people out there. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. What'd you learn the most from that last fight that you're bringing into this one?
Yeah, last fight was an interesting fight. I got my ass whooped in my mind. It was you can't forget to fight. You can't forget to show up to fight. I've been doing this a long time, and that's one of the first times where I felt like just in the middle of a fight, like what the F am I doing? And it's just it starts with that initial intent to fight, or to want to fight, or to accept that you're fighting. And that night it was off for whatever reason. I did have a little bit of injury before the fight. I broke my pinky toe right before I went out, about 20 minutes before I went out to the fight. Broke my pinky toe. I'm like, kind of brushed it off, like, whatever. And then I was kind of pissing around in the first round, trying to get a gauge on him, stuff like that. And I broke my left hand, I broke a bone in my left hand. And then after that, I just forgot about my intent and why I was there, and it just kind of fell apart. And that's all on me. So going into this next camp, I had to take a step back and really look at what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and what can I do in the future to improve myself and to actually show up to these fights. So that's kind of the process I'm taking right now.
How did you break your pinky before, like 20 minutes before? Was it just like practicing a kick and you broke it?
Yeah, I think I kicked my coach's elbow.
Oh no.
And yeah, it kind of popped out, and we're like, whatever. We kept warming up, and it popped back in. I was like, I must have just dislocated or whatever. But after the fight, I found out that it was broken. So
that's crazy.
But it was, one of those things where it's like, it's just a pinky toe, but it can be the smallest thing that you overlook that can get in your way.
Well, I'm sure mentally it's a distraction as well, a little bit. You mentioned sort of, taking some necessary steps. Or are you seeing like a sports psychologist, or what have you done to sort of, kind of make sure that doesn't happen again, I guess would be my question.
Yeah, I have a mental coach, and I've been working with him for a while. His name's Caleb Rogers. He's out of Kansas City. But and we've been working together for years. So we got to the point where I'm like, okay, let me try to do a little bit more on my own this fight. So that was like the last couple fights was like a little bit more on me, and I would call him when I need him and stuff like that. And it's true, I can do it on my own, but he's a coach in the long run. He's a coach, and he'll make sure I hit my goals during camp, during fight week, fight day, mental goals that make sure we're mentally prepared to go in there and to battle, and not just battle, but win a fight. And I skipped over some of those steps that we usually take leading up to a fight. And so when I got there, I wasn't as grounded as I needed to be, and that I have been in the past. I was kind of banking on that just showing up, that tough as nails Devin that can go through anything. I thought he would just show up, and he did not.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's so many things that go into fighting, right? And you got to make sure that every box is sort of checked there going in. Let's talk about your opponent, Un Jung. I don't have to worry about the hometown crowd or anything this time around, but how do you feel like stylistically you match up against him here?
He's a 6'4" striker, so me being a little bit shorter wrestler, it matches up well as long as I avoid his main weapons, obviously. but I've noticed in the past that fighting a guy like that is beneficial for me, using my speed, my wrestling power, and stuff like that, and really leaving him lost in which direction to go in the fight.
Training camp, who have been some of the main guys you've been working with helping you get ready for this one?
Zach Puega, or Ponga.
Yeah.
his name's, yeah.
Ultimate Fighter, and fought in the UFC, obviously had his debut, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. He's one of my main training partners right now. And of course, Curtis Blades and a few other guys. So, Razak, I do not know.
Yeah, Al Hassan. Yeah. UFC middleweight. Yeah.
So he's another one. And we have a really good team here. So it's really good.
And I don't know if you work with Ty Flores at all. He just picked up a big win for Unified. I only know that because I do interviews for that promotion, so I got to speak to him ahead of time, and I know he picked up a nice win. That was a really nice win. What was it, last week? So.
Yeah. Ty's another great training partner. Obviously, he's out for a little bit now after that really good victory. He went all the way to Canada and did his thing, and apparently against a pretty tough guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, very tough guy. Yeah, like top Canadian fighter for sure. So.
Yeah, so it's congrats to him, and I'm happy for him. He's put in some work, and we definitely tested him his last couple of weeks, and he passed those tests. So.
It's great. Weight cut, does that start now? Obviously, we got Christmas coming up on the weekend. Do you have to skip that, or how does that work?
I'll eat a couple meals, and then I'll punish myself after. But that's one of the things that I had to look back on and see, should I change that? Do I need to change how I cut weight? Am I cutting too much weight? And I decided I am cutting just probably a little bit too much. So I want to be a little more comfortable fight week, and come down about 5 pounds of when I come into fight week, in which I'm on track to do. I'm waking up about 2:30 right now. That'll be 225 soon. And then, because usually fight week, I come into fight week about 218, 220. And so I want to come in about 215.
That makes sense. I didn't know you get that big. That's crazy, because you used to fight at middleweight. I think people forget. In fact, our first interview back in the day, you were a middleweight.
Yeah, that was my UFC debut, I believe, or was that? Yeah.
Yeah, well, even before that, I think we did an interview for when you fought for RFA, but then, middleweight you fought in the UFC. You're right. I remember that as well.
That was my debut, because I was fighting RFA at light heavyweight.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah. So you moved down for the UFC.
But I was only walking around about 210.
Okay.
And then as soon as Dana said, as soon as I fought that title fight for RFA, and Dana said, okay, you're a middleweight, somehow my weight bumped up to like 220, 225.
So it did the opposite, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, dang, I got to make 85. So then obviously we moved up to 205, and now I walk around about 240 to 250 in the off season. And a lot of that's just to do with maturity and
metabolism. I get it, man. I'm getting up there too. It's harder to keep those pounds off, right? So.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Who will be in your corner for this fight?
So we're changing that up a little bit as well. I got Vinny Lopez in my corner, and Cody Donovan and Zach Puanga will be my third, and that's it'll be the first time in my UFC career that my dad will not be in my corner. And that was a huge decision, kind of hard to make, but we decided to make it. And I'm not going to go too in depth with it, but from like the training side of it, having Zach there fight week and warming up with him, and we're main training partners right now. So having him will be hugely beneficial to have kind of like a little tech spar before the fight and stuff like that, and make sure I'm ready to go, lathered up and warmed up properly, and stuff like that. Then also on the flip side of it, my dad can go to the fight and enjoy himself, and not have to really coach. You know what I'm saying? He can enjoy his son doing what he does best at the highest level.
And obviously, like you mentioned there, not going to go into detail or anything, but how did the response that you thought he'd give you? What was it that when you told him the news, or like how did you come to that conclusion?
It was a lot different than I thought.
Okay.
I,
Fair
I
enough.
thought he was going to be pretty upset. I know it is a big deal for him. And I love having my dad in my corner. I know he loves being in there, but when you talk about growth and growing in your career and kind of changing stuff up for the better, even though it's a hard decision, um, he's a man and he accepted it. And he's like, that's good. He said his exact words were, "You'll be able to hear me anyways." Um,
Yeah.
and that's what we're going to fight in South Korea. So I'm sure the Apex will hear him just as good as any time ever. So
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. How's this fight playing out on February 4th? How do you see it going down?
I see me coming out there and having fun in this fight and controlling this guy like he's never seen. Throw the wrestling at him, throw the striking at him, throw the kicks at him. Then the conditioning. I'm going to be ready to go. This will be my longest, one of my longest camps that I've had, especially at altitude. And we're Vinny Lopez. He's a really good strength and conditioning coach, and I have a really good strength and conditioning coach back home in Sioux Falls as well, Matt Dolan. And between those guys, I'm ready to go. I could fight right now. I'm in shape. And we still have 5-6 weeks to go. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a great fight. And he's in for a fun night if he thinks getting his ass whooped is fun. So.
And then at the top of your division, the whole thing's been flipped upside down. Yuri is injured. He vacates the title, and now they're doing Glover Teixeira and Jamal Hill. What did you think of that decision from the UFC?
A bit interesting, but I can understand them trying to get new blood in there and kind of spice things up. Especially since Jamal Hill, he's kind of a tough fight. He's a tough fight. He's got that power. He's exciting. He knows how to run his mouth. He knows how to get in someone's head. Then he's a nice guy on the outside of it too. So he's a good opponent, and he could be a good champion. It definitely mixes things up if he becomes champion, and especially fighting an older guy like Glover. It's super interesting. And the most interesting thing is that they called him before the other two guys got out of the cage for the other fight. So I don't know. It's interesting though and exciting.
Yeah, it's a crazy business. Who do you think wins that fight? Do you think Hill's the favorite? I actually just checked.
First round, if they can get it, Jamal Hill, if he gets it out of the first round. If it goes 5, I'm going with Glover. He's got so much experience and he's so tough and athletic and super surprising. So I assume Jamal Hill's not gonna take him lightly and try to finish him right away.
If you had to give the edge though to someone, would you give it to Glover just with the experience, or Jamal just being the new blood?
Jamal, because that first round is so important. Definitely, he has the power. He's got the moves, and we all know Glover. He likes to take hits sometimes, and he can take hits. And that kind of question is, can he take those hits from Jamal Hill?
You mentioned it there. A little bit of time before the fight, right? February 4th. What's the plans for the holidays? What are you getting up to this week?
Well, I'm going to be driving home 9 hours to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I'm either leaving tonight or tomorrow morning because there's a huge snowstorm coming, blizzard and all that tomorrow, which I was going to leave tomorrow, but I have to beat the storm so I can make it home for Christmas. And then we get home and chill with my wife and my daughter and see the family. Then, we'll do our big family deal with the rest of the family for Christmas and Christmas Eve.
Are there no direct flights, or are flights expensive? I was going to say 9 hours. It's a long drive.
No, I'm a weirdo and I like to drive.
Okay.
And it's 9 hours, so it's not too far, but it's long enough to where I can kind of reflect on things, especially if I'm going by myself. I'm not this time, but there's still that point of reflection. I'm going with my roommate, John Kuhneman. He's also a fighter, young and up and coming fighter. So that stuff that goes on that road trip, how road trips can get. They can get kind of deep, and I can reflect about the first half of this fight camp, and also my plans for the next part of the fight camp, the future, and also him. And he's 23 years old, and he's got a lot of motivation, and just that 23-year-old spirit. So it's a nice time to kind of just enter the laboratory and come up with something good. Then I'll go home and enjoy my family. I'll still be training a little bit, but I'll shut off that brown bear side of me. And then when we come back, I'll pick him up in Omaha, and then we got another 9 hours to get back into camp. So I really like that part of road trips and driving, especially when it's around a fight camp.
That's interesting. And so you don't listen to anything in the car, no podcast, no music. It's just all like kind of self-reflection.
No, we definitely listen to everything. It kind of goes where it goes, but I know it always goes to a reflection and motivation and everything. Cause you're trapped in the car. You don't have nothing else to do. We'll argue about music, and he hates country music and I hate his drill rap that he listens to. So we always end up picking up something that's a little bit neutral. But it's just something I've done for a while, road tripping. When I was in Albuquerque doing fight camps in Albuquerque, and we were fighting at the Apex, I would drive from Albuquerque to the Apex. I think that's about 8 or 9 hours as well. A great time for me to reflect and come to terms with what I was about to do, which was get into a fight. And 8, 9 hours in the car is perfect amount of time for a person to do that and have that self-reflection and that confidence going into fight week.
Devin, thanks so much for doing this, man. We're looking forward to it. February 4th, UFC Fight Night. If there's anyone you want to thank before we get out of here, any sponsors, any social media you want to plug, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I just want to thank anybody that cheers me on and has supported me all these years. I think we're going on 7 years in the UFC, so I want to thank everybody, who's the UFC and my manager and my family and everything. And my social media at Brown Bear UFC on Instagram, at Brown Bear C on Twitter, and Devin Clark on Facebook. Thank you, everybody.